Well, the sun is coming up over the horizon, and the sky is still that pale, washed out, nothing colour. It's all pink and orange and beautiful on the skyline. And there's a hawk over there, spiralling around. Oh, it's gone now. Maybe it found something. Maybe it saw something. Now the clouds are turning pink. There's no clouds in the sky. There's just clouds along the horizon. And they're all shining pink on their backs. Why? Why? There's no function in any of this. It's just abundant, irresponsible beauty. I wonder if it changes your brain to see the sun come up in the morning. If it adds somehow to the process of waking up, to watch the colours emerge out of the black and to see the birds take off in little flocks from the hedgerows and tweet and chirp and call to each other as they fly. Do you think they're like little squadrons? Do you think they're all got little voices saying, I'm on your wing, I'm watching you, okay, I'm about to peel off, okay, you have a good day. Do you think they all say little cute things to each other like we do? I don't know. And it's cat a day, and I have a cat, and it's curled up next to me in my blanket, and it's purring. I think we tend to forget that sound encounters our entire body. We think the sound goes in through the ears, but it doesn't. We hear it through the ears, but it's actually a vibration, and it touches our entire body, and it vibrates against our skin. When I first learned about patterns, it was when I was studying. I was studying at a new sort of school. It was called the Learning Connection. And this guy's philosophy was that when you assign a grade to a creative person, you limit that person's creativity because you transform it from a creative way of thinking to an analytical way of thinking. And so you interrupt the creative process. And so what he did was he built a school that instead of giving grades for artwork that was submitted, he gave feedback on the artwork that was submitted. And instead of submitting your work and your teacher marked it and sent you back your marks, you instead had a Zoom meeting. I don't know what they were called back then. Some face-to-face. Did we have face-to-face? I don't know how we did it. I'm sure we talked together. Phone conversation? I don't remember. Anyway, we'd go through each of the works that we'd submitted, and they'd say, this really worked here. This was a great piece of this thing. These colours were great. This composition was good. You took this photo from an amazing angle, whatever it was. And you could really have done better here. One of them, still it's with me almost every time I draw, was this is very sloppy. I drew such a lovely picture. I really tried very hard. He was like doing a push-up or something, or some exercise on the floor. and his head and shoulders were right towards me, and his body was behind. And I'd worked really hard on the perspective, and it was. And then when I got to the end, he had a curtain behind him, so I just took the pencil and went scratch, scratch, scratch down the page, and made these 3 really ugly lines behind him. And he said, my teacher said, "That's really sloppy. You could do better." Ouch! Today, I am a 60-year-old woman, and I remember my feedback. Far more powerful than if I'd got a D. A D would be, oh well. But, so in that environment, in that learning environment that I was in then, I encountered this brilliant book where he was talking about patterns. And he talked about waves breaking on a beach. We can see their patterns. They break, and then they break, and then they break. We can see there's layers of them. We can see the tallness. We can see, but we can't see the pattern. They're so complex, and every single one of them is different. But if we had the time and the energy and the perspective and the equipment, we might be able to take photos, and we might be able to discern patterns within that randomness that we can't perceive because we're so tiny in comparison to the whole sea. So there might be patterns within waves that, if we could see them, are so intricate and elegant that they would just blow you away. And I rave about the beauty of these things. It makes my heart like burn and sing and get so excited to think, like, God thought this up. And not just one set of waves, then the sunset at the same time, and the change in the colours, and my kitty purring, and all the millions of creatures through all eternity that I will never know existed. The intricacies and the complexities of planet Earth, and the abundant, irresponsible beauty of it. And so my cup runneth over. I have all of this around me. I live in paradise. And I need to create something here. And that's so fascinating to me, to watch myself in this process of changing. It's amazing and it's huge, and I can feel my mind shift, but I can feel my heart shift too. And I'm starting to feel all sorts of shifts in my gut and my stance and the energy that flows through me. It's not that I think that my tragedy is any greater than anybody else's. This is the shame of it, really, is that my tragedy is really one of the small ones. I mean, like, nothing really's gone wrong for me, really. In and of myself, everything's gone pretty easy, and I've had an amazing life. Unbelievable, privileged, exquisite. I have grown up as a part of a group of people of whom I am so proud. I don't know. It's hard to explain what it's like to have come from people who painted their bodies blue as a symbol of defiance that nobody understands except themselves, because nobody would do it. And yet, that's the sort of thing that my people understand. I don't know if I'm actually a descendant of one of the actual people who used the word. I don't know. But I know that they were relatives of my ancestors, and we were all in the big hodgepodge of evolution of tribes and cultures, and we have this heritage, and we all held hands together, and I don't know, community, that spirit of going back through the ages to your roots, to the beginnings of who you are. And as I was growing up, the story that was prevalent in the community that I was growing up in was the story of the Garden of Eden. This amazingly beautiful, lush planet where everything was perfect, everything was balanced, and everything worked so well, in a way that you could say it was divinely inspired. It was so incredible, like you just study mushrooms. You just study mushrooms. Just take one tiny thing and study it, and you find that it's, I'm a little bit speechless at the moment trying to articulate the amazing parallels and insights that I'm seeing into the mushroom kingdom and the experiences that... Okay, let's try and focus a little bit. That's interesting. Mushrooms are interesting things. And it all fits together in this amazing Garden of Eden. And yet, there is a way to stuff that paradise up. And that's called biting the apple, okay? So we're not talking about trees and apples. We're talking about a picture, word picture. We're talking about telling you a story by making sounds which make an image appear in your head, which conveys a concept to you. Do you understand how that works? It's a whole like cascade of processes that happens through your mind. So an apple, right, it's in the Garden of Eden, and it's an amazing fruit. It's got this fun, green, shiny skin, which is pleasant to look at and pleasant to feel. It's nice if you put it on your lips. It's all sort of silky. It doesn't need to be. We don't need to have those feelings. It doesn't need to be pleasant to eat. And yet we do. We have this capability in our body to enjoy things at such an intense level. But we're always busy running around, doing things quickly, rushing. We never stop to participate in the Garden of Eden and what the pleasure is in being here. Anyway, so the story is big, and that's why people gather together once a week to tell these stories to each other, because you can't do it in 10 or 15 minutes. So apologies for all the other bits and the things that over time my story will start making more sense. At the moment, I'm sure that it sounds very disjointed and airy-fairy to you, but over time I'll get to explain it. Right, so apple. Trying to explain to you what I mean about having bit the apple. The apple's perfect. It's really It's really lovely to look at and encounter with our senses. But the sixth sense that we encounter the apple with is our mind. And what that means is that we sort of make that apple stand for something. And the way it is so nice, it sort of stands for perfection. But then when you bite the apple, you break the perfection of that entity. And you partake of its goodness in a way that you couldn't before, because the perfection of it was keeping another layer of goodness hidden from you. And as well as experiencing that sweetness and that goodness and that stimulation in your mouth and your tongue, it's also going down your pipes and past this great huge factory in the middle of your chest, which pumps your blood and your oxygen around your body, and the energy and the electromagnetic forces and the pulses of those machines are beyond anything you can begin to imagine. I mean, it's unbelievable how exquisite this machinery is of this body that you're in. Anyway, your food goes past all that, and the energy, the electromagnetic energy, influences the food as it's going down, where it's digested and spread out in your blood to every single part of your body. That apple that you bit. Now, if you don't carry on eating that apple, the air, the oxygen in the air, will react with the flesh of the apple, and it'll go brown and soggy, and it'll start to rot. So an apple that is perfect and hasn't had its skin broken won't start to rot, because the skin protects it. But the broken apple has skin, the perfection removed. We at school, when we put our children in schools, one of the biggest things that we try to do is we try to stimulate these pictures that have come down through our cultures. We try to read children these stories and convey these images and these experiences to children. And as they grow up, these stories that we tell them become more and more scientific, until, you know, instead of just having somebody who understands about food and understands about the goodness of apples and how to grow them and how to serve them up and those things, they also experienced the apple, heard stories about apples, encountered apples, know about rotten apples. And so by the time you enter the world and you become a part of the world, you have these huge amounts of data stored in your mind under the concept of apple. And so you see how when we tell a religious story, we're not telling a story about two people in a garden eating a piece of fruit, disobeying and sinning. That's the taster story for 5-year-olds, which get you to the concept here of understanding that in life, in order to get something better, we have to let go of something perfect. Right now, there are a lot of things that are easy in my life because I'm in a lot of bad habits. And I avoid a lot of responsibilities, and I close my mind to a lot of things. And that's causing me and has caused me huge amounts of problems. And I feel sometimes that I'm just treading water all the time. I'm trying and trying and trying and trying and getting nowhere. And I think that's one of the things that causes me to be lost in my own mind, is that sort of somehow that inner focus, inward focus, that's the stuck in this like, my tragedy is so big in my mind that there's not even a snippet of awareness that anybody else could have another tragedy. It's not like I can even compare tragedies, because my tragedy takes up every single molecule space in my brain. It's like the bomb has gone off and all the smoke is still hanging there. But it's clearing. It's clearing. Done a lot of work on a lot of different things, gone back many years, dealt with many issues from many tragedies long ago. And I think that's just moving on. I think that's just moving on. I think one of the secrets of moving on is that in my mind, this is another picture, in my mind it's like those big stairs at a park, where you go up one stair and then you walk along 3 or 4 steps, and then you go up one step and then you go sort of gradually up one of those walkway staircases. And that's sort of progress through life. Great insight! Trudge, 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 trudge. Great insight! Trudge, 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 trudge. The origin story of our cultural understanding is that we started out on this planet that was all garden, and we made our mark on it. And in doing so, we bit the apple. We broke something perfect in order to get something also perfect, nice, the flesh of the apple that fed us, that meant that we could progress. We've built our civilization, and it has a lot of problems in it. Nothing is collapsing, and nothing is coming to an end, except inasmuch as every new beginning is an end. It's okay for us to go on. It's okay for us to change. It's okay for us to explore technology and new ways of doing things and new ways of being. And it's good to take our history and to examine it in detail to see where we've been, and to try things and to see if we can find balance, if we can plow ahead into trying new things, and then we can pull back and say, wow, look, that's a mistake, it's gone too far. Well, let's try this. And if we can cooperate together in sort of in unison, in harmony with each other, with a one bigger purpose that's bigger than the Garden of Eden that we are in, this planet Earth, this Eden. There's something bigger. There's what we can make out of this planet. And we've done so well. Our life expectancy now is, 84 years or something? Or 74? I do not know how much it is. It's long. We can live long lives. And we can live longer lives. And it's exciting. And things are going forward. And we can be something more. But it comes back, I think, to what I said right at the beginning, is that there are so many opportunities and so many things happening. And it's overwhelming. And it's so easy to be flooded with fear and anxiety and depression and suspicion and nihilism and all these emotions can be stirred up by this abundance of choice that we have before us in society. And there is a way that is better than allowing any or all of those to happen. And that is to learn a certain level of thought and concentration that allows you to move away from the aimlessness that is overwhelming you and choose a mountain to die on. To be somebody who makes a difference, who stands up for themselves, and who drives themselves to find out what drives them and then drive it, to be the best that you can be, to strive for the hardest and most difficult thing that you possibly could do, the thing that you want to do the least. And somewhere in there, you could find a small, still voice that could guide you to your moment of greatness. And when you're on your deathbed, maybe the only thing that will be important to you will be that moment of greatness. That moment when you made all the difference because you could. Because you are in Eden and you have bitten the apple and you've been cast out of your childish ignorance. And you've paid the price. And yet, here you are. And it's neither good nor bad. It just is.